Why do we react in ways we don't understand? Why do we say things we later regret? Why do we stay stuck in patterns that clearly hurt us and yet feel strangely familiar? You want peace, you want progress, but sometimes it feels like your own mind is working against you. That's not weakness, that's programming. You may be living by a script, one you never chose, one written by old pain, past voices, early survival. A script buried in what modern psychology calls the subconscious mind. But long before we gave it that name, the Stoics saw it for what it is. An unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. They understood that beneath every emotion, every reaction, every craving, there was a belief, a judgment, a pattern. And until you become aware of that pattern, you are ruled by it. The Stoics didn't just study logic, they studied themselves. They sat with their impulses. They questioned their assumptions. They practiced stillness, not to look enlightened, but to reclaim control from the inside out. Because what you do not understand will control you. And what you see clearly, you can change. You don't need to control everything. You need to understand what's already controlling you. This video is not a crash course in philosophy. It's not a motivational push. It's a quiet invitation to stop, look inward, and finally ask, what's really driving me? Whose beliefs am I carrying? And how do I begin again? From awareness, not autopilot. Today, we explore how ancient Stoic wisdom can help you understand and reprogram the subconscious scripts that shape your life. Not by force, but by noticing. Not by controlling everything, but by seeing clearly what's been controlling you. Let's begin. Stoic foundation, know yourself, is a command. The Stoics never use the term subconscious mind, but what they practice daily deeply aligns with what modern psychology describes as the subconscious, a collection of deeply ingrained beliefs shaping our automatic reactions. Epictetus said it best: "You must dig deep inside to find your root opinions." What he meant is simple yet profound. Beneath every action, reaction, or decision lies an invisible foundation, a belief that was likely formed without your conscious consent. Over time, this belief has become so automatic, so habitual, that you no longer recognize it as a belief. It feels like truth. The Stoics called these deeply embedded beliefs judgments or assumptions. They understood that our reactions, anger when challenged, anxiety before uncertainty, guilt over our choices, aren't random or spontaneous. They're built upon judgments we've internalized, repeated so frequently that they've become second nature. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, frequently urged himself to look inward, observing each impulse carefully. His personal notes weren't philosophical musings. They were practical reminders to stay vigilant, to notice the subtle movements of his mind. The Stoics believed that freedom begins with awareness. By observing your reactions without immediate judgment, you uncover the hidden assumptions driving your behavior. You see clearly why certain words trigger defensiveness, why certain situations spark fear, and why certain achievements never feel enough. This Stoic practice of self-awareness is not theoretical. It's intensely practical. It invites you to question each automatic response. Where does this anger come from? What belief is fueling this anxiety? Why do I consistently apologize for simply existing? As you cultivate this practice, you regain control, not by suppressing emotions or reactions, but by understanding their roots. You start rewriting the subconscious scripts by questioning their validity, because until you bring your judgments into conscious awareness, they control you without your permission. Ultimately, Stoicism offers not just self-awareness, but self-liberation. It provides a path to consciously choose your beliefs, to decide how you'll respond, and to reclaim your life from patterns written long before you knew they existed. Your judgments no longer control you. You consciously control them. 3 ways the subconscious shows up in your life. 1. Automatic emotional reactions. Have you ever noticed how quickly anger or frustration can take hold of you? Someone makes a simple comment, and suddenly you're defensive, upset, or irritated beyond reason. You might assume your reaction is about what was said, but the truth is deeper. It's driven by an underlying subconscious belief, quietly shaping your emotional responses. Consider this common scenario. You feel angry when someone criticizes your work or ignores your opinion. On the surface, it seems logical. They offended you. But if you look closely, your reaction isn't just about their behavior. It's rooted in a deep-seated belief such as, I must never be disrespected, or, if others don't value me, I have no worth. Marcus Aurelius captured this clearly when he wrote, "It's not the thing that disturbs you, but your opinion about it." He recognized that our emotions are not automatic reactions to external events, but reflections of our internal judgments. The anger you feel isn't triggered by another person's actions. It arises from your subconscious interpretation, your hidden assumption about what their action means about you. These automatic emotional reactions are often ingrained in childhood experiences, past relationships, or societal conditioning. Over time, they become subconscious scripts, so familiar, so habitual, that you mistake them for instinctive responses. But the Stoic path teaches you that these reactions are not fixed. You can bring these subconscious beliefs into the light, observe them, and begin to question their validity. Ask yourself, why does this particular comment hurt? What hidden belief about myself is activated when I'm challenged? The goal isn't to eliminate emotion, but to understand it. By recognizing the judgments beneath your automatic reactions, you create a small but critical space. In that space, you gain the power to choose differently. You learn to respond rather than react. You replace unconscious repetition with conscious awareness. And that changes everything, not by removing the emotion, but by transforming your relationship with it. You're no longer a puppet to subconscious beliefs. Instead, you're the observer, aware and in control of the scripts you choose to keep and the ones you decide to rewrite. 2. Fear of change or self-sabotage. Have you ever set out to change something important in your life? Maybe pursue a dream, leave a job, or build better relationships, but found yourself inexplicably stuck or sabotaging your own progress? It's not that you don't genuinely want change. It's because something deeper, something subconscious, is holding you back. The Stoics recognized this internal resistance clearly. They called it an attachment to a false identity. This false identity is the mental image you have constructed over years, built on roles, titles, experiences, and societal expectations that become so ingrained it feels like your true self. Your subconscious mind fiercely protects this identity, resisting anything that threatens it, even if that identity no longer serves you. Epictetus wisely stated, "You are not your roles, titles, or reactions. You are your choices." He was emphasizing that real identity isn't fixed or externally defined. Your true self isn't the roles you play or the labels you've accepted. Your authentic self emerges through your conscious choices. When change arrives, your subconscious mind senses danger. Not physical harm, but the danger of losing familiarity, comfort, and security. It whispers, "This isn't you," or "You're not ready," convincing you to stay small, safe, and stagnant. This subtle resistance manifests as procrastination, self-doubt, or self-sabotage. To the Stoics, overcoming this fear of change means first recognizing the false identities you've built. It's the process of noticing when your subconscious pulls you back into familiar, limiting roles and beliefs. By consciously observing these moments, you can begin to detach yourself from these old identities. Epictetus would remind us that our true nature is fluid, adaptable, and defined by our decisions in the present moment, not by past roles or future anxieties. Each conscious choice you make to step forward, despite discomfort, gradually rewires your subconscious, weakening the grip of outdated identities. The Stoic practice isn't about denying fear, it's about facing it intentionally. You accept discomfort as part of the growth process, knowing each step forward builds a stronger foundation for genuine transformation. You aren't bound by your subconscious fears. You're empowered by the clarity and courage of conscious choice. 3. People-pleasing or guilt-driven decisions. Have you ever found yourself constantly saying yes to things you secretly want to refuse? Do you often feel a pang of guilt when setting healthy boundaries or prioritizing your own needs? Many of us subconsciously operate on a deeply rooted belief. If I don't please others, I am not worthy of love. This subconscious belief doesn't appear overnight. It's cultivated early in life, reinforced through experiences where approval, acceptance, and even basic affection depended heavily on our ability to satisfy others' expectations. Over time, pleasing others becomes more than a habit. It becomes a core aspect of our identity, an automatic response that guides our every choice. Yet the Stoics offer a clear and compelling challenge to this deeply embedded pattern. They teach that true freedom comes from releasing the need for external validation. The Stoic philosophy urges us to recognize that our value isn't determined by how effectively we satisfy others, but by how authentically we live according to our principles and values. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus consistently emphasize self-reliance and self-respect over external approval. Their wisdom suggests that inner peace isn't something we can barter for temporary acceptance or conditional love. Instead, it's a steady internal state we cultivate through mindful decisions that reflect our genuine beliefs, not the expectations imposed on us by others. As Marcus Aurelius advised, don't trade inner peace for outer approval. Each time you say yes when you mean no, you weaken your inner clarity and compromise your self-respect. The Stoic approach invites you to pause and reflect in those critical moments of decision-making. Ask yourself honestly, am I acting from genuine kindness and alignment, or am I driven by subconscious guilt and fear of rejection? Gradually, by becoming conscious of this internal pattern, you begin to shift your responses. You start setting clear, compassionate boundaries without guilt. You learn to value your own peace over others' momentary satisfaction. The transformation is subtle but powerful. You stop sacrificing your true self and start living authentically. In Stoicism, authentic living isn't selfish, it's essential. You can care deeply for others without abandoning yourself. In fact, the more you honor your boundaries and inner peace, the more genuinely you can show up for others. This conscious shift from subconscious pleasing to authentic living becomes the cornerstone of true emotional freedom. The Stoic way to reprogram the subconscious. Reprogramming your subconscious doesn't require mystical rituals or dramatic breakthroughs. It starts with awareness and is built through consistent practice. The Stoics didn't talk about rewiring the brain, but they lived it. Their lives were rooted in discipline, observation, and inner correction. One of their most powerful tools? Reflection. And the most accessible form of reflection is journaling, not as a performance or a productivity hack, but as a mirror, a daily check-in with your own mind. This is how Marcus Aurelius used his journal, not to impress others, but to confront himself. His words weren't written for an audience. They were written to clarify his thoughts, question his assumptions, and hold himself accountable. Start with one simple ritual. Before the day ends, ask yourself 2 questions. What emotion took over me today? What belief was underneath that? You're not looking for the right answer, you're looking for honesty. If you felt envy, trace it. Was it driven by a fear of being left behind? If you snapped in frustration, what part of you felt unseen or powerless? The goal is not to shame your reactions, but to understand them. Each time you journal, you pull a thread, revealing the belief system underneath your day-to-day behavior. And the more often you do this, the more patterns you'll see. Patterns of fear, patterns of overcompensation, patterns of needing to be in control. But seeing is everything, because once you see it, you're no longer run by it. Over time, your journal becomes more than a collection of thoughts. It becomes a map, showing you where you've been stuck and pointing you to who you can become. In the Stoic view, this isn't self-help, it's self-honesty, and it's the first true step to freedom. Voluntary discomfort. Train response over reaction. If journaling is the work of observation, voluntary discomfort is the work of training. The Stoics believe that self-mastery couldn't be built in comfort. True resilience, the kind that withstands chaos, can only be forged in challenge. That's why they didn't just talk about strength, they practiced it daily. Seneca once wrote, "Train yourself to want less." It wasn't about suffering for the sake of pain. It was about building inner calm by stepping into discomfort on purpose. Modern life conditions the subconscious to seek pleasure, safety, and control at all times. But that safety often becomes a trap, a routine of avoidance. When discomfort finally arrives, you panic. You fall back into old emotional reactions. Why? Because you've trained for comfort, not for challenge. Voluntary discomfort flips that script. It tells your subconscious, we are safe even here. Taking a cold shower, sitting still in silence, skipping a meal, holding your tongue in an argument, choosing the harder path just once today. These small practices send a powerful message. Discomfort is not a threat, it's training. And over time, that training becomes a new pattern, one that teaches your body and mind to respond with stability, not fear. The Stoics didn't eliminate emotion, they rewired their response to it. You can too. Not by waiting for life to test you, but by choosing small moments to test yourself. Discomfort isn't punishment, it's preparation, and it's the most Stoic thing you can do today. Visualization. Premeditatio malorum. Sometimes the mind spins stories about what could go wrong, and those imagined outcomes hijack your peace. Stoicism doesn't tell you to ignore them, it tells you to walk through them, eyes open. The practice of premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils, is one of the most powerful Stoic tools for calming the subconscious. The goal isn't to obsess over worst-case scenarios. It's to visualize difficulty before it happens. So when life inevitably throws challenges your way, you don't react with panic. You respond with preparation. Take a few minutes each morning to quietly imagine one potential challenge you might face. A difficult conversation, a delay, a failure, or even a betrayal. Not in a dramatic or fearful one, but in a grounded, calm, clear-eyed manner. Ask yourself, how would a grounded version of me respond? What would a Stoic version of me choose to think or do? This practice rewires the subconscious in two ways. First, it makes the unexpected expected. You've already mentally rehearsed facing discomfort with clarity. Second, it reminds you that your power lies not in avoiding hardship, but in preparing your mindset for it. Rather than being controlled by fear of what might happen, you enter the day rooted in intention. Premeditatio malorum is not pessimism, it's preemptive resilience, and it teaches your subconscious a new truth. You are not fragile, you are prepared. Stoic challenge, breaking your pattern. Insight is not enough. Reflection alone won't change your life. It's what you do with awareness that reshapes who you become. So here's your Stoic challenge. Choose one emotional reaction you want to shift. Just one. Maybe it's irritation when you're interrupted, or guilt when you say no, or anxiety when you feel uncertain. Observe it this week, not to judge it, not to suppress it, but to understand it. Catch the moment it begins to rise. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what belief is beneath this? This is the practice, this is the work, not to be perfect, but to be present. Because as the Stoics taught, the mind that sees clearly chooses freely. So start there. One pattern, one pause, one step toward freedom. Comment below, I choose to respond, not react. Conclusion, from reaction to freedom. If you've made it this far, you've already begun the work, not of adding more noise to your mind, but of listening more deeply to what has always been there. Stoicism was never about suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected. It was about uncovering the invisible scripts running your life and choosing with intention which ones to rewrite. You are not your impulses, not your fears, not the beliefs passed down to you without question. You are the author now. You've learned to pause, to question, to practice discomfort on purpose, to prepare for challenge with clarity. And most importantly, you've remembered that the goal is not control, it's clarity. Because the moment you stop reacting on autopilot is the moment your life begins to shift. Don't wait to live like a Stoic. Start now, live slowly, think deeply, choose wisely. Drop a comment, I choose awareness over reaction. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to True Stoic Way for more wisdom, not to impress others, but to strengthen the one thing that truly matters. your inner foundation. The work isn't easy, but it's worth it, and you don't have to do it alone.